Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
1 second here. There we go.
All right. So we're recording. So for those that are just joining us now, Mr. Phil Williams, how are you?
Good.
Thank you so much for
Great.
joining us, man. I
Oh, it's a
appreciate it.
pleasure.
Yeah. I know Ian's been talking about you for a while. He says, I need to get Phil Williams on. You get Phil Williams on. And finally got you.
Good. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So you're out
Appreciate
in oh, no problem. You're out in California?
I'm in Ventura, California.
Ventura. Is that northern?
I'm sorry. It's north. It's about an hour, 60 miles north of Venice, for example.
Okay. You're not near the fires, are you?
Nowhere near.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. They said that's getting crazy, man.
It's out of control.
Hmm.
Every year it gets worse. So
Yeah.
I don't know what to think of that.
Mm-hmm.
Dry weather. There's no rain. It never rains.
Yeah.
I mean, we get rain 10 times a year if we're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how long you been out there? Sorry, Ian.
I've been in Ventura for a year. We moved from LA.
Okay.
I was taking care of my mom there. She had a house there. She passed away. We decided we wanted to get out of there. LA is a crazy place to live. I mean, I don't know if you spent much time there, but the traffic and everything else, all the congestion and the stress. At my age right now, I don't want to deal with that anymore.
Yeah. I competed there a couple of years ago. That was my first and only time there, and it was crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy place.
Mm-hmm.
It'll drive you crazy being there.
Yeah.
Not crazy in a good way, I'm assuming.
I'm sorry.
Was that Ian?
Not crazy in a good way, crazy in a bad way, right?
In a good and bad way. Yeah. Yeah.
So Phil, where you said we met? Where was that? Can you remember? What were you guest posing?
I was doing something. It may have been a guest posing. I don't remember that. But was it Sheffield?
Oh, with the British two, the British Championships too. They had like a British two in Sheffield, I think.
It was in Sheffield. It was in a gym, actually. We were at the counter.
Right. Yes, I do remember that. That was. I was thinking that was at the show.
No, it was in a gym.
Who was the guy you were with? Your training partner?
Yeah, he was a Mr. United Kingdom, and he won a Mr. Northern England title. His name was Mark Lanny.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, yeah. So we were workout partners for almost a decade. We trained in Sweden together. I was living there at the time, and we'd go to England, and we trained in the USA together.
Wow. And what was I doing there? Was I just there to train? Was I training with a friend?
I believe you were probably training. Yeah. You were at the counter when we walked in the door.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. I'm honored that you remembered me.
Small world.
Man. Oh no, you can't. You made a name for yourself. You're not gonna forget you.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of making names for yourself, you're one of the people that don't know you. And when I started doing some research on you actually beat Lee Haney and Lee Labrada back in the day.
Right.
That's something that a lot of people can't say they've done.
Yeah, it's funny because I beat Lee in a teenage show. This was 1979. It was a teenage Mr. Coastal USA. And I was preparing for the Teenage America that year. And somehow he ended up in fourth. I don't know how, but he shouldn't have been there. But
how old were you?
I was 18 at the time.
Okay.
That was in May of 79. I turned 19 about a month later in June. And we went to the Teenage Mr. America in September. And it wasn't the same kid, right? He won the tall class in the overall. And I somehow ended up in the 5th place in the medium class. And after that, I tried to catch up with him, and he just took off. And won the nationals in '82, the universe, and the Olympias from there.
Yeah. Now, and I just gotta say, to sit here and look at you, and I know you got to get this. When you tell people you bodybuilded in the '70s, I'm sure people look at you like there's no way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you look amazing. That's crazy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So then you got to the fast forward a little bit, 1984. is when you beat Labrada, and then 85, you won the overall in the NPC Nationals. You beat Labrada again, and you beat Ron Love.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and that you were in the middleweight class then, right?
Oh, I was a light heavyweight.
Light heavyweight. Okay.
Labrada was the middleweight winner, and of course, Ron was the heavyweight winner.
Right. And what was your? Do you remember what your stage weight was?
197 1/4, right on the money almost.
Wow. Let me see if I can find your picture here.
And now I remember why people used to go on about me being a good junior. Well, you're the sort of people I had to follow, Phil. So
Right.
I had to be a good junior, you know?
Yes. Absolutely.
The standard was set. Yeah, look at the incredible physique.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
No, you really did. You have your shape and your muscle bellies were just.
Yeah. Now what that's impressive there. Almost like
That was the 84 USA. That was actually a week after the show. I had a chance to fill out more, and I had a photo shoot with Iron Man magazine, and John Baylor took those photos.
almost looked like a trophy, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I thought it was for a second. I was like, man, that trophy looks like you.
How old are you now, Phil?
I'm now?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm 61.
Wow, you look great.
Oh, thank you. I'm still trying to hold on to what I can. Still training.
You don't have look at all these wrinkles. I'm only. How come you don't have them?
Oh, how old are you now, Ian? You must be what, mid 50s?
53 next.
53 next. Okay.
Yeah. I feel 93 some days, but I'm only 53.
we all do. We have those days.
No, I'm not complaining. I'm doing pretty good. I had a bit of a health scare last year, which kind of put me in. I nearly died actually. I had an open heart surgery.
Wow.
Yeah, completely.
I had the same.
You had the same?
I had endocarditis. I don't know if you know what that is. That's extensive dental work, and the bacteria went to my heart.
Oh,
and for about 4 months, I felt terrible. I didn't know why. And I went to the urgent care center, and they were telling me, oh, maybe you've got COVID. I'm thinking, oh, this doesn't sound like COVID. So I spoke to a doctor friend of mine, a kid I grew up with in high school. And I told him everything I had. And he said, you had dental work done? I said, yes. He goes, you have endocarditis. He says, go to the emergency room now. I went to the emergency room that night, and they held me for 2 weeks. I ended up having open heart surgery as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What did they do? What did they do in the surgery?
They cleaned up the arteries, I believe, which had bacteria. And I had a heart murmur, which I'd known about for years and it never bothered me. So I never thought anything of it. And they had to put a ring and close that gap, I guess.
Wow.
So they did 7-hour surgery.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? It's crazy when you talk to someone. I mean, I guess we're all getting older and it happens, right? It's just, it's mind blowing because, I mean, I had no idea there was anything wrong with me. And I was getting what I thought was acid reflux for about 2.5 weeks. And I went to my gastroenterologist on the 7th of December last year. And that morning, both my ankles had swollen up and I had heart failure.
Yeah, that's the same thing. My ankles swole up tremendously and we didn't know why. And of course, once they tested, they gave me I guess, what do you call that? A heart scan?
Oh yeah,
What's it called?
Angiogram. The angiogram where they go through. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So they held me that night, and that was it. They took care of it, but man, it went through quite a bit.
Wow. Well, thank God you're still here, sir.
Glad to be here still.
Yeah. Wow. Puts a different perspective on life, don't you think?
It does. I believe it does. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I've been a lot happier since it happened. Not because it happened, but I just value every second I've got here. Yeah. Every second, you know.
And I hate to say this, I hate to bring this up, but there's a lot of guys that we've lost.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard of Matt Mendenhall, Phil Hernan.
Yeah, we've been talking about that on our shows.
Both good friends. Billy Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I knew all fairly well. We're good friends. Me and Phil Hernan were on Instagram going back and forth for a time, and then he sort of vanished. I heard he had some kidney problems, perhaps.
Yeah.
And he was on dialysis. And that's tough.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. It's kind of scary. And there's not just. I mean, we're all getting older. We've got things going on, but you know, there's a lot of athletes now that are still competing that are dying from diuretics right now. I mean, it's just it seems like every single day there's a new death.
Every week almost.
It's scary, man. It really is. I mean, I don't know about you, but I got into this sport because I thought it was healthy.
Well, in the 70s, it was a healthy sport.
Yeah.
You know, it was considered very healthy sport to work out and to eat well, you know, and going into it, I had the same feeling.
That's why I run a bodybuilding federation called PCA, and that's what I want to try and bring it back to that. I want to try and bring it back to that. Where it's going to be hard because it's hard to rewind time, but you know, bring it back to it's supposed to be healthy. It's supposed to be fun, right?
Correct.
I mean, a lot of these people are dying and they're miserable. I mean, that's just no way to live. I mean, it should be fun. You know, I got a bit too intense about it, but
we all ended up on that road.
Yeah. What I've got to ask you a personal question, Phil. Why did you stop competing?
I can tell you exactly why. I competed in the 90s. My last show was in 96. And I was trying to get bigger. They said, boy, now you got to get bigger. Remember the guys were getting bigger in the 90s after Dorian.
I was going to say, when Dorian showed up.
And I went to my last show in San Jose, and I saw guys like JP Fuchs, huge guys. I mean, and it was just blew my mind. It was like, I can't compete with this. I felt like a child standing up there, size-wise. And I did some research, and I spoke with a guy who's a trainer here, very popular. And he told me what I had to do. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, there's no way I can afford to do this. I don't have the resources or the finances to invest into something that if I take 5th place, let's say I land in 5th, I'm getting $1,000. I'm upside down. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm spending more than I'm making. And to me, that was the decision right there. Then everything, you know, and after that, it just escalated. Each year it escalated. Now, if they would have had something like the Masters Olympia over 40, I would certainly have considered that at the time. But that went away. And after that, there was nothing left to do.
So when was your last show?
It was the 96 San Jose Pro. And Kevin Lebroni won that show. Paul Dillette, I believe, took 2nd. I mean, I was on stage with these guys, and there's just no way I could compete with that.
What year did you get your pro card, Phil?
I got my pro card. It's weird. Now I wouldn't say they give them away, but they give them away.
Yeah.
I won the 84 USA overall, no pro card back then. So I had to go to the Nationals a year later. I won the overall in the Nationals, no pro card. You had to win the World Championships to get a pro card. I took 2nd in the World Championships to a fellow named Joseph Gromelis. And so I was sort of in limbo because in 86, they didn't have the World Championships. They dropped it. In 87, the USA became a pro qualifier if you won the overall. And in 86, if you won your class at the Nationals, you got a pro card. So I didn't receive a pro card. I finally spoke to Jim Mannion, and he said, don't worry about it. Turn pro. So that's how I got the pro card.
Yeah. John Hansen wrote that in the article about you. He talked about that, about the struggles you had to go through to try to get your pro card versus how easy it is now. So
right, correct.
Yeah, that was crazy. Some of the shows you were just dominating all these people, and they were. I can't remember what section of the article was, but they were talking about if you had gotten your pro card when you had beat Haney and Labrada. I guess there was an upcoming show that you probably would have beat them in.
That would have been, the Night of the Champions.
Night of the Champions, that was it.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah. I read the whole article in like 20 minutes. It was really fascinating. Some of the stuff. I like John Hansen.
Crazy what they've done, don't you think? I mean, it's to me they've devalued what a pro IFBB pro is. I think I mean, when I was coming up and following you, Phil, and other Lee Haney and people like that, if you got your pro card, you were part of an elite group. You really were.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. There were only a handful of us on the planet, to be honest. I think there were maybe 30, 35 pros on the planet during that era.
No, it's crazy. I mean, I think in 2019, the NPC in the US alone gave away 1,072 pro cards.
That's incredible.
In 1 year, in one country.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I think it's like printing your own money. I just think it devalues.
I talked to guys I've run into, and they said, "Well, I'm an IFBB pro," and I'm thinking,
yeah,
he's out of his mind.
Yeah.
And they were, you know, and
Mhm.
it was that, like you said, it was that easy to get.
Well, I put my foot in my mouth a couple of times. I remember doing like a promotional booth for PCA, a nutrition store outside in Florida, which wasn't pleasant because it was hot as hell. But this guy came up and me just being nice and seeing, you know, obviously he trained, and I said, you know, you should think about competing. And he turned around to me and he said, actually, I got my pro card last week. And and the thing is, he looked like he trained, but he didn't look like a pro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, back in our day, you could tell who the pro was. You didn't
Oh,
know
sure.
fast. They stood
Absolutely.
out. It was another level of
Mhm,
athlete.
mhm.
And then I think another thing is you had to earn the right to be published.
Yeah.
Now, everybody's an expert.
Yeah.
On training, nutrition, or chemistry. Everybody knows. Everybody's a trainer now. And I'm thinking, who's this guy?
Yeah.
You know, and it's amazing.
And that, you know, we've been talking about that with these gurus and these trainers and these athletes that have been dying. Our last couple shows, and Diuretics really came up.
Diuretics, and I don't know what else they do anymore. I
Yeah.
haven't kept up with that end of it. I couldn't imagine. I've heard some stories from a few guys who know, and I'm just in disbelief about it. I said, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
It's
What was popular when you were starting out? Like what kind of gear was popular?
Oh, I can tell you a funny story if you got a second.
Yeah, we got as much time as you need.
Okay, I was 17 years old. I was training in a gym, and I was looking to compete. Actually, I had already competed in some smaller shows, like the Mr. Missouri Valley. My first show, I took 13th out of 26. And he said, "Phil, come here." We were leaving the gym together, and he opened the trunk of his car. He was a pharmaceutical sales rep. He goes, "I want you to try something." I said, "What is it?" He pulled out these 2 bottles. He said, "I want you to take three of these a day." I said, "What is it?" He goes, and I read the label. I said, "Oh, Dynamo." I said, "Okay." I said, "What does it do?" He goes, "Well, try it and tell me what you think." I went from 156 to 194 pounds in 3 months.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And from there, I mean, I'm completely naive about it. I didn't know anything. He didn't say too much about it. He just wanted to see the effects on me more than anything else.
Yeah.
But
it was legal back then too, right?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Very much so. Sure.
Now,
okay.
Where was Arnold at when you started? Because he was pretty still competing, right?
He was still. I competed in my first show in '77. He won the 80 Olympia that year, so he was still involved in the sport as a competitor. And of course, that was his last show, and then from there he started promoting shows.
Okay. Did you ever run into him or have any contact?
I was introduced to him from Samir Banut, who became good friends with. And when I first moved to California, I stayed in Samir's apartment with him for the first 6 weeks, perhaps. I found the job and a place to stay. And he introduced me to Arnold several times, and we'd see him in the gym, World Gym at that point, or World Gym at that point. And I kind of saw him on a daily basis, or a weekly basis, let's say.
Yeah. He's not too popular right now.
Right.
Yeah. His comments not.
You know, Arnold, he's going to say what he wants, and I don't care. I personally believe he doesn't care what people think. He's going to say it.
Yeah. He's been there, done that. You know.
Oh, sure, many times.
Yeah. That's cool. I got to ask. I always got to ask about Arnold. So.
Yeah. Who do you keep in touch with from back in the day, Phil? Or don't you?
I talk to Samir occasionally. We run into each other. Ali Mala, you guys remember him?
Oh, Ali Mala.
Yeah.
How's he doing? I remember him very well.
He's in LA. He's got 2 or 3 daughters. I can't remember. Young daughters. So he's doing well.
That's great. Is he in good health?
Yeah, seems to be. Appears to be in very good health.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Robbie was staying with you for a while, correct?
Robbie came to visit me last year. He wasn't staying here, but he was staying not far away from me, and he came over to visit me. But I think he's back in LA now.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
We
Robbie,
go back.
Robbie's a good guy.
Yeah, Robbie's a real good guy. Kind of a shy type. Kind of hard to get to know him.
Yes. Yes. He's kind of.
Over time, we got to know each other, and we talk when we see each other.
Yeah, he still looks good. Have you seen his pictures he posts and stuff?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. Him and Ron Love kind of been going at it with each other, saying they're going to compete against each other.
Oh, okay. Him and
Yeah.
Ron Love. Yeah, Ron
Yeah.
says that he's going to compete again. He's almost 280.
Yeah. He's putting some size on.
Is
I can't imagine doing that now.
280?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Are you still involved in the sport, Phil? Do you coach or anything?
I do personal training. I started personal training, and I started a high intensity type training where I'm training guys 3 days a week, which works out real well. And two of the guys that I'm training now have made incredible progress in a 2-month period of time.
Wow.
It's a hard sell because these guys want to be in the gym 6 days a week. They go in there. It's, they set up their tripod. They tinker about. They don't really work out. There's no intensity there. But they don't understand. And I understand that they don't, because I didn't when I first was trained by Mike. I trained with Mike in 1978. And in 81, I trained with Ray Mincer.
Right. I did not know that. I did not know that. So is that how you train? You train like high intensity?
I do one body part. Let's say I do chest, shoulders, and tricep on a Monday. I'll let 2 days go by. Wednesday, let's say I'll do legs. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'll hit back and biceps.
Did you always train like that when you were competing?
I did. I trained once a week when I was competing. Each body part once a week.
Right.
Instead of twice a week like traditionally. I couldn't do that. I would get overtrained so easily. I wouldn't be able to go to the gym, especially if you had a high intensity workout.
I did the same. I trained every body part once a week, always.
Yeah.
I think if you train really, really hard, you need that recovery, don't you?
Oh my God, recovery is everything. I asked these guys, tell me when you grow. They think they grow in the gym. I said, no, you grow at rest.
Exactly.
You can't spend 6 days a week in the gym and then Sunday think everything's going to take place. By that time, you do that for 2 or 3, 4 weeks, you're overtrained already, and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can't tell these young guys that, man.
I'm trying to. I'm doing my best to.
Yeah, I was the same way. I'd go every day. I was stupid. Now, Phil, did you have any injuries? Did you deal with any injuries?
I've never had any injuries in the gym.
Okay.
Not ever.
Okay.
I would if there's around, but yeah, no injuries.
Yeah. What was your heaviest that you got?
I got up to about 235, the heaviest, which was too heavy. I like to stay around 225.
How tall are you?
5'6.5".
Okay. Yeah, that's a good size.
Yeah. I mean, pretty good size.
So is that what you're doing now? Are you training people? Is that your main job? What you do now?
Oh no, I work between training people, and I work at a friend of mine got me a job at a GNC store. So I do part-time there and then part-time training. I'm trying to increase the training side of it, but hasn't been easy.
Well, we need to get your details out to people, don't you think, Jason?
Yeah, definitely.
Because I don't think a lot of people understand the knowledge that someone like Phil has. I mean, I would have loved to have had the opportunity to pick Phil's brain when I was younger. I really would.
Yeah.
Back in those days, we didn't really have coaches, did we, Phil? You know,
I can just only imagine.
No such thing.
I can only imagine walking into a GNC and Phil Williams in there telling you what to take. Because normally when I walk into GNC, there's some young kid in there and they're trying to tell me, hey, you should take this. I'm like, dude, leave me alone. I know what I'm getting.
That's
what's crazy though. I bet a lot of the people that go in there have no idea who you are.
It's gonna say,
no
yeah.
idea of your background.
None whatsoever. Yeah, none whatsoever.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. I mean, I don't think that what store is it? Because the people in the area need to know who they're speaking to. They really do. I mean, it blows me away how. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but like social media, like you said, there's all these experts, and so a lot of these experts have never even got on a stage before. And the knowledge that you have from all your years of competing, training, all the nutritional, self-taught nutrition that you know, I don't think people understand how valuable that is.
No, they don't. They don't.
It actually makes me quite sad how underappreciated people like yourself. Steve, we had Steve Brisbois on last week, you know, and just it's an incredible amount of knowledge that there's all these young kids on social media making a fortune, absolute fortune, and then there's people like you and me, and you know, and we probably, without being disrespectful, we've probably forgotten more than they know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely so. Absolutely so.
People need to reach out to. How can people reach out to you, Phil, to get hold of you if they want to do coaching?
Well, they can text me on my phone number, which would be area code 805-824-1978. That's the only real contact number I have.
Yeah. If people can contact me or Ian, and I can get them in touch with you. So whoever's watching this, if they're interested, I can definitely get them in contact with you.
Also on Instagram. You're on Instagram, right?
Also Instagram, exactly.
So they can reach out to you on Instagram as well. So if whoever's listening, when this goes out, I will advise everybody to take Philip, because the amount of knowledge this guy has is it's just underappreciated by people. I think I don't think that people understand the wealth of knowledge that people like yourself have got.
Yeah. Now, Phil, when you were coming up in bodybuilding, now was bodybuilding your job, or did you have to have a job?
Oh no, I've always worked. Whatever I could do. I mean, once I was 17, my first job at 17 was, believe it or not, working in a nightclub. I was the doorman, right?
Yeah. I did exactly the same.
Somebody else here worked at a nightclub.
That was what we did.
Yeah. I was 17 working in a 21-year-old club.
I did exactly the same at 17.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow. That's crazy.
And I did that for decades, my whole bodybuilding career, and even after.
So did you get into any skirmishes? Yeah. What areas were you in?
There was always issues here and there. I mean, nothing, too serious, but I mean, yeah, you'd have to throw somebody, you'd have to throw people out, guys out, nightly.
Did you have the same issue I did? Because I was like the biggest doorman on the door. And whenever it kicked off, the mouthy one with all the beers always wanted to fight me. And I started to get a complex because they always wanted to fight me. And I'm like, am I such a bad guy that these guys always want to have a step? You get that, Jason. You always want to step.
I just go to a club and a bar and they automatically think I'm the bouncer. Yeah, every time I walk in there, everybody's afraid of me. Oh, we thought you were the bouncer. I'm like, no, dude, I'm just here to have a drink.
Oh dear, yeah. It's amazing. I think that must be a generation thing of bodybuilders back in those days, because I remember going for a drink with my brother. I was 17. I wasn't legal to drink, and I was in a like a wine bar, like a pub. And the bouncer came up and offered me a job, and it was like it was food money.
Right, sure.
It was money to pay for my chicken.
Absolutely.
So I did it, and it was from that point on. I mean, I was working every weekend right up till mid-20s.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing. I did that along with working in gyms. Back in the old days, I worked for a guy, George Turner. We talked about him in some of my podcast. Crazy gym owner from St. Louis. I tell you what I used to do. I used to leave high school at 2:35 in the afternoon, and I drive from Kansas City to St. Louis, which is 365 miles border to border. I'd work out when I got there. I'd sleep in my car, train the next morning, go back to my car, try to find something to do, train Saturday evening, go back to my car, sleep in my car, wake up Sunday morning, train, and then from there drive 400 plus miles, let's say, back to Kansas City, go to school on Monday morning.
Wow.
Craziest thing I've ever done. One of the craziest things I've ever done.
Mm.
And at 17, I didn't think it was anything. My mom let me do it. My parents said, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to St. Louis again? I said, yeah, I'm going to St. Louis to work out.
Mm.
And they were just probably thought this kid's crazy. My kid's nuts.
Mm.
And I did it in the wintertime, drove in snow. It didn't matter the weather conditions.
Mm.
The roads were open. I was on my way there.
Wow.
Wow, you see, people, I don't think people understand that type of dedication. I really don't think people understand it. It's I've done a lot of similar things. Probably not. You can't drive that far in England without going off the edge of the country. So,
Right.
but, you know, but I used to do a lot of silly things like that, just because you'd do anything to get to where you want it to be. You know,
Yeah, there's no real limitation. Absolutely.
Man, that's an incredible story. That's man, that we've got more in common than I even realized. I tell you, that's nuts. I know when I was 17, I blew both my knees out squatting. I was squatting like 620 pounds for 12 reps, and I literally one day I used to get like a piece of bone that'd stick out the side of my knee, and I used to wiggle it back in, and then one day it got stuck in my knee, so I couldn't straighten my leg, and I had to have surgery on both knees.
Wow.
And the surgeon told me that I would never train again, and that I would probably never be able to walk properly again. So after I met you and I got my pro and I turned pro, I won the heavyweight and the overall British championships when I was still a junior.
Right.
In 1989, and the first magazine that was on the trade stand, I sent the doctor it, and I just put a big thing, look at the legs. Like basically,
tremendous legs. So,
but the thing is, you know, a lot of people, I don't know if they would nowadays, but a lot of people would just give up at that point.
oh, most would, I think. I would most probably would.
But that was like waving a red flag at a bull to me. And,
Yeah.
I think we all had the same mentality, Phil. I mean, you know, I've read a lot of stories of other bodybuilders doing similar things.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between if you train like a normal person, you eat like a normal person, you're going to look like a normal person.
Right.
But if you're willing to do those extra things and go all the, you know, that extra mile or 400 miles in your case, that's what sets apart a champion, I think, from just a good bodybuilder.
I believe that 100%.
I agree.
In the old days, we used to go to seminars. Remember they had seminars?
Yeah.
Drive for out of state, no matter where it was.
Yeah.
If there was Robbie doing a seminar, Mincer doing a seminar, Zane doing a seminar, Samir, Danny Padilla, whoever it was, I was there.
I was, because it was the chance to listen to, basically they were revered as gods to us, weren't they?
They were.
And everything they said, we just absorbed. You know?
Yes.
I mean, I think even more so living in England. You know, we get athletes coming over, like well, you see in the magazines, but you didn't really know. No, there was no pros in England when I was coming up. There was no English pros that were any good. So it was like when an American pro came into town, if you wanted to know about bodybuilding, you went and studied them. I remember the first pro bodybuilder I ever saw was a guy called Greg DeFerro.
Greg DeFerro, I remember Greg, sure.
Greg DeFerro, and he guest posed one of the first ever bodybuilding shows that I attended in Batley, in Northern England, and I was probably 15 at the time, and I stood beside Greg and I asked him questions for 3 or 4 hours. Wow. I can't believe he didn't tell me to do one, but he didn't. He had patience all night. I would ask him how big he was when he was 16, how big he was when he was 17, how big, you know, trying to get all these mental markers so I could emulate what he did. But yeah, it was a different era. It really was. It was a completely different era. I'm very glad that I got brought up in that era. I'll be honest with you, I really am.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah.
So,
who did you look up to, Phil? Kind of, or did you have somebody take you under your wing?
Two of my favorites were Robbie Robinson and Samir Bannout. I tried to copy. Basically, I tried to you know, copy what they were doing or their look. Those were two of my favorite bodybuilders as a teenager growing up.
I know Samir had some of the best posing routines.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I met Samir when I was 17. He guest posed at the Mr. Missouri. I took second in the short class of the Mr. Missouri that year at 17. And he was there guest posing with Danny Padilla, and I got to know him. And George Turner, he had trained under George Turner for a while as well. And so I started training under George Turner after that. That's when I was making the drive to St. Louis from Kansas City. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I would have done anything, you know, within well, I wouldn't say within reason. That's even I would have done almost anything.
Yeah. What's his name lives out in Missouri? Who's the one that's training Ramy?
Oh, what's the fella's name?
The diet doc is on.
Yes, he's training Ramy right now.
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
Neither can I. Sadly, I can't. My memory for that name. Oh.
I'll get it here in just a second.
Robbie Robinson.
Chad Nichols.
Chad Nichols.
Chad Nichols lives in Missouri.
Yeah, no, he's trained a number of guys, great bodybuilders over the years.
The Turner, what was his name?
George Turner.
George, what was his background? I've never heard that name before.
He did the Mr. America, the AAU, back in the 50s probably, because we're in the 70s now, and he was in his mid-50s at that point. But he opened a gym, the first bodybuilding gym in probably the Midwest, one of the first. And he manufactured his own equipment. He got his blueprint for his equipment from Joe Gold and Dan Howard. So he had some of the best equipment and the best gym. It was an old Kroger grocery store that you can do a gym. And in the back of the gym, he had what was called the Iron Factory, and that's where he made equipment.
Wow, that's old school, man. That's cool.
That's real old school. Real crazy guy. A lot of people couldn't stand and be around him. He was, we call him, he was mad. Let's put it that way. He really was. But if you could hang around and tolerate his madness, you could learn more than there's no one else to learn from.
It's funny, you know, but back in those days, they were like the pioneers of the sport, really, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely, especially in gyms, commercial gyms now. There were no commercial gyms in the state of Missouri. There were none in Kansas City. I started out at the YMCA. And then from there, went to Turner's. And then from there, you know, that opened up everything. Meeting Mike Mincer there and then getting to know him, Samir, and a few other guys that he had in his gym at the time that were good bodybuilders. So from there, I learned quite a bit. I would never learn that on my own. Let's put it that way. Or if I'd never left and made that trip every week, I would have never gained that kind of knowledge. That kind of knowledge back then, you could read it in the magazines, but it wasn't the same thing.
No, it's not.
In the Leader magazines, they were trying to sell you Crash Weight Gain Formula number 7 or whatever else.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
When you were competing as a pro, do you have a contract with a company?
I had a small contract with a company called Super Spectrum, and it was out of Thousand Oaks, California. They had vitamins, minerals, amino acids. I was on the label back in the 80s. And from there, they had protein powders, egg protein, and things like that. A small company that did real well. They went international. They were in like 3 or 4 countries, and that was hard to do at that time.
Yeah.
I even took their brand when I was living in Sweden. I distributed it and sold it over there.
I was going to ask you if you competed internationally. Did you do any overseas shows?
The only one I did I did 2 shows. I'm sorry. I did the 83 Mr. Europe, Open Mr. Europe. It was a week before the Mr. Europe. And I beat Christer Erickson, who won the Mr. Europe that year. I beat a week earlier. And then it was the World Championships, which I took second in. Those were my 2 only international shows, I believe.
Yeah, how long did you live out in Sweden? When did you go out there?
Sweden for about 12 years.
Yeah. Okay.
What took you to Sweden? I'm curious.
My first wife, my girlfriend.
Right.
Yeah. So she decided to go back, and they said, well, what are you going to do when she leaves? I said, well, I don't know. And she asked me to come over if I wanted to come over with her. And I talked to Andreas Collin, who was a Swedish guy. And he said, oh, bodybuilding's great in Sweden. That's where you want to go. And he was
Mhm.
right. When I went over there, they saw me when I won the Open Mr. Europe. I was guest posing every weekend around Scandinavia,
Wow.
Sweden, Norway, and
Mhm.
Denmark.
Hmm.
And then from there, it expanded into Europe. And that was before winning the USA in '84.
Is that where Tony Freeman got popped? Was that Sweden or Switzerland?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
he did.
Yeah. I had him on the show. He told me
Yeah,
about it.
that
Yeah.
was Sweden. I remember that.
Yeah. Like, yeah, if you fit the profile over there. So I mean, did you ever get messed with?
Never did.
No?
Never did. I don't think it wasn't, a lot of people back in the 80s, still like the general public had no idea what steroids were.
Mm-hmm.
No idea. That happened later on around the 90s when you had, what's the guy's name? Ben Johnson get popped and all these athletes were getting in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
That's when people, the general public, realized, oh, what's steroids? And, of course,
yeah.
all the information on what it was out there through the media.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yes, we were lucky, and it's like I said before, lucky to get in there and kind of before all this happened. And I think the crackdown was in 1990 in this country. I think it was George Bush that made it illegal. And they put it in the Class A category with cocaine and heroin and whatever else.
That's ridiculous, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's been that way ever since.
Yeah, it's didn't he get made illegal because some governor's kid died or something?
There was a kid here that died, and he went on, what was it, Bigger, Faster, Stronger, and he campaigned about it. The kid killed himself.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if he went on, came off, it caused depression. He may have had depression prior to going on. And whatever happened, he ended up killing himself. And of course, he was taking something. I don't know what it was he was taking, but from here, his father went on a campaign across the country.
Yeah, that was back when I think Arnold was running for governor, wasn't it?
He would have been probably, maybe, yeah, I would say probably during that time.
Yeah, because I remember. Well, in the movie, I remember because Gold's Gym was taking his picture down and everything.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, I remember them taking it down.
Yeah, it was because of all the stuff, because he was anti-steroids and all that stuff back then.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is kind of ironic.
That's a whole nother episode.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have any regrets about competing, Phil?
None really. I guess not. I can honestly say that it was a sport. If you didn't have the right people around you and the right resources, it was hard to make a living. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to, like Robbie would say, this is a hustle. You have to hustle, and you had to hustle every day. So, I mean, yeah, it was, as far as finances go. I mean, I would say I made more money guest posing and doing appearances and seminars than I did during the contest or for any show. When I won the Chicago Pro, this is a funny story. The first place prize was $10,000. Well, when we got to the show and we were getting ready to go backstage for the pre-judging, I think it was Wayne D'Amelia that came up to us and said, well, due to poor ticket sales, the first place has been reduced to $5,000 from 10.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. That was on the day of the show?
That was on the day of the show.
Wow. That's mind-blowing. Yeah. I have a few little stories like that with Wayne. I remember that my pro debut, I was my sponsor at the time, who was an English guy, was supposed to be sponsoring the English Grand Prix, and that was my pro debut. Well, my sponsor didn't show up, so Wayne was harassing me backstage, asking me where the guy was with his money. And I'm nervous as hell. I'm about to walk on stage with like Charles Claremont, Ron Love, all these superstars. And Wayne's like asking me where my sponsor is and where his money is. And ironically, every single English Grand Prix, before and after, the top 6 were placed. They brought the top 6 out. That year, I placed 6th, and they only brought out the top 5.
Oh,
that was my pro debut. I got inducted into the School of Hard Knocks from day one.
so it's hard, man.
It was, yeah, it really was.
It's a hard way to make a living.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what they're doing now, but I hear, even through social media, because there's no magazine, so you're not going to get the guest posings. The more you were featured in the magazine, whether it was Flex, Muscle Builder, with Muscle Mag International, all these magazines, if you got the cover and you were featured often, you got more work. And that's how you really made your money. If they didn't feature you for a time where you weren't getting much publicity, it was hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hard.
I think it, like I said earlier, it kind of amazes me how you've got these guys now that have really not accomplished anything in the sport, and they're making a ton of money. And there's people like it's kind of upside down. It's kind of an upside down world we're living in right now in that regard. I think.
Well, I tell you, we learned about training. We learned about nutrition. We learned all we had to know to get where we were.
Yes.
Nobody talked to me about business.
Yes.
I didn't know anything about business coming up as a kid. I was 15-year-old, and I didn't even look at that. I was so, tunnel visioned that all I did was eat, sleep, and train and repeat. But to get out there and know how to have that charisma, and I was a shy guy as well, I didn't know how to do that. I won the USA and the Nationals, and I moved back here for a while, and I'm waiting for the phone to ring, which didn't happen. It doesn't work that way. It didn't work that way for me, and what am I going to do next? What am I going to do now? And I'm trying to figure it out. So it's a struggle the whole time.
It's funny because the whole time I was bodybuilding, I never did it with the intention of making money. I never thought about it. I thought that it'd all take care of itself. Like you, I was just bodybuilding.
I mean, at our age, we were naive.
Yes, we were.
Really naive.
Yeah, I agree. It was just eat, sleep, train. And then you just wanted to get to that level of other people that you were seeing in the magazines, and you didn't think past that.
No, you didn't. You really didn't.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, let me sorry, yeah. I know you've got stuff to do. I want to read something to you, and then I'm going to ask you a question. In this article, I thought it was pretty interesting. The bodybuilding world will always wonder what if in regards to Phil Williams. What if he went to compete in the 1986 Night of Champions against Lee Labrada and Ron Love, which we talked about? What if he competed in the Mr. Olympia that year against Lee Haney, Rich Gaspari, and Mike Christian? What if he continued on to the Mr. Olympia in 1988 after defeating Gary Stridham at the Chicago Pro Show that year? Do you ever think about that? I mean,
sure, all the time. It's getting dark in here, maybe.
Yeah.
There
like,
you go.
What show did you wish you man, I should have did that show?
I would have liked to go in the 88 Olympia, of course. I was 3 weeks out when I went to the Chicago Pro, but I was so depleted and dehydrated that I just couldn't find the strength to do it. But I was inducted into the that's called Mr. Olympia Hall of Famer record book for taking, if I had been or would have competed, I would have taken third place. So I've been second behind Rich Gaspari. Now, a few guys, Jerry Branham and John Hansen, did a podcast, and they both agreed that I could have taken second. So, I mean, in that Chicago condition, if I could carry that over. But, the problem was I was exhausted. I was alone. If I'd have had someone there to kind of say, hey, buddy, let's do it, push me further. But like I said, I was by myself. I went out there by myself. And I just didn't have it in me. Yeah. And if I had gone in, I may not have gone in that Chicago Pro condition. So that was something, I wish I had it done. But I mean, there's people that think I could have taken as high as second place.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I agree. I mean, you had an incredible muscle belly, incredible shape. That's another thing about I mean, my whole career, I never had a coach. I did it all myself.
Do ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody did back then, did they?
No.
Some people did. Some people had people that were in the corner, but I was quite a loner, and I was quite secretive about things. You know, it's not because people. I don't know about you, but bodybuilders didn't. If you were competing on the same level as a bodybuilder, they didn't really talk about what they were doing.
I used to hang out with Samir all the time. Samir was one of my best friends, and I said, Samir, I was shy about asking him questions, especially when it came to that. And I would say, well, Samir, what do you think about taking this? You think that's good? And he'd say, oh yeah, I like that. That's good. And that was, but I mean, you know, no real information. As close as we were, I was too shy to ask him. And the fact that we were on the same level almost, you know, I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's so different nowadays. I mean, some of these athletes, they've got a posing coach, a nutrition coach, a training coach. You know, they've got like 5 or 6 coaches in the corner. It blows my mind. It does. I mean, it's just the way of the world now. I guess it's just different. But and you know, good for the coaches. They're making a living out of it, I guess. But I just think there's definitely knowledge that you've got, and a lot of other bodybuilders have got, that have been there and done it, that would supersede a lot of these instant coaches, I call them. You know,
Instagram champions and coaches. Yeah, that's so.
Hey, Phil, did anybody do rack pulls back then?
Oh dear, that's funny. So I'll give you a background on this, right? You know, have you seen this exercise called rack pulls that people do nowadays?
Yes.
Well, I gave Jason and Ryan, the guy that couldn't make it on tonight, I gave him a load of shit and saying, who the hell wants to do a rack pull, and why would you do a rack pull? What are you trying to develop? You know, and everybody tells me, oh, it's for the lower back. Like, what bodybuilding show have you ever seen that where a lower back won the show? It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. And so they give me constant crap about me criticizing rack pulls. What's your thoughts, Phil? I'm curious.
Yeah, so we ask everybody now.
I've never done them.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've done Romanian deadlifts, hyper extensions, of course. Yeah. And then I learned to use a reverse hyper. And believe it or not, I ran into George had a machine, and he copied it from Body Masters, which was a good morning machine.
All right.
Where, yeah, the bar goes behind your head, a padded bar, and you go into a good morning position, and you raise up and contract and squeeze your lower back and hamstrings. One of the best pieces I've ever seen. I haven't seen one since. They're very hard to find if you can find one. One of the best pieces I've ever used. I want to put some more light on me, guys. Excuse me for a second.
You're good.
There we go. Sorry, but it's getting dark now.
Yeah, it's been dark here for a while, so.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So you see, Jason, it's not just me that hasn't done rack pulls.
Yeah, I see. I did something tonight. I didn't want to tell you. I trained back before the show.
So you did some today?
I did some today. Yeah.
Oh, you're doing it out of spite now, aren't you? You're just doing it to
try yeah. I thought of you. You know, you were my fuel.
Ah, dear me. Well, I don't know if you've ever checked Phil's physique out. Though. I mean, he had an incredible back, and he never did rack pulls, Jason.
No.
Who'd have thunk it?
I guess I have to take a look at it again.
Oh dear me.
Oh man. So you mentioned a podcast. Will you have your own podcast you're doing, or?
Do I? Oh no.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you were doing
that together to save my life.
Yeah. Oh, well, it seems like everybody's doing them now. So
I know.
I'll
be real honest with you. My computer skills are poor.
Yeah.
I know very little about technology, and I sort of avoided it for years. I don't, you know, and then, you know, everything changed, of course.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah. What's your take on all this COVID stuff? You know, we talk about it a little bit.
Oh, well, I mean, I was vaccinated, of course. I was one of the first because of my heart condition.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take any chances. I mean, I got both vaccines. I got 2 Moderna shots. And now if it comes up, I'll get a booster because there's another variant around the corner, according to a doctor friend of mine who's very good. And there is one coming out of South Africa now, which they know very little about. I think this is going to be with us a while.
I think it's going to be the new normal, is what they're saying.
Yeah, you know what? I believe that. I do believe that. So I'm not taking any chances. I wear a mask. You have to out here when you go shopping, when you're going around the public. I mean, I got used to doing it now.
Yeah.
Are you still locked down over there? Because I'm trying to get a venue to do a show there next year, but they won't even contact us about putting a show.
Wow. There is in LA, there's a mask. You of course you have to wear the mask, and they're trying to get people to get vaccinated, of course. And there's a certain percentage of the population that are against it. That's why things will never change. Now you got kids out here in LA. We're talking about 12-year-olds coming up with COVID. But before that wasn't the case. But like I said, with these change in variants, you don't know we don't know what's next.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, LA's a semi on lockdown. You have to have a mask. And hopefully even on jobs and certain jobs with the government and other places, you have to have a vaccine.
Wow.
And I think they made that mandatory next month sometime, October 15th or something. And if you don't want to get the vaccine, I guess you may be out of work. I don't know.
Wow.
Kind of depends on which direction this thing goes.
Mm-hmm.
But if right here in LA, in California in particular, even in the country, I think it's on the increase again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going anywhere.
Crazy times we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really crazy.
Yeah.
When's the last time you've been to England? England, how are they doing over in Great Britain?
They were locked down right up until April. And they're just kind of coming out of it now. But the last time I was back there, it'd have been 2018.
Oh, a couple of years.
Yeah.
But hadn't started then.
No, it not. No, I haven't been since it all started. Last year, everything was locked down completely.
Sure.
And yeah, it's been pretty rough. I mean, all the gyms were closed for. I think they opened them up for like a month, then shut them back down again. A lot of your independent gyms, like your privately owned gyms, they couldn't reopen. They were done.
Right.
It's been bad. It really has. I mean, we run bodybuilding shows all over the US. In fact, if I get out that way, Phil, I need to come and meet with you.
We'll get together. Sure, I'll come to the show.
I'd love you to come and maybe judge for us for one of our shows.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you there, or I'll meet up with you in person. But, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how next year goes. But like in 2020, we had no shows whatsoever. Everything was cancelled. Sure. This year, we've only been able to do like 5 or 6 shows, maybe 6 shows, just because venues have not been open. They've not been allowing us to book anything. So it's tough. It's tough to run a business where in the entertainment field, where you've got a lot of people coming together when something like this is going on.
Absolutely.
But we'll survive. We always do.
Well, we find a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Made it this far.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Phil, you keeping up with today's guys? Who's your favorite of today?
I tell you who I like more than anybody else, and he's an older guy now, would be Cedric McMillan.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, he just got hurt. He's out of the Arnold's.
I heard that. Yeah. I heard that.
Yeah, he announced last week. He has another injury.
Yeah, he's my favorite. I think he's one of the best physiques out there. I
love his physique. Yeah,
he could win the Olympia.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
110% condition.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd win.
Yep, I think so too.
Other than that, I mean, I like Sean Roden's physique. He had a classical shape.
Yeah, but it don't look like he's coming back. And I know Kai Green officially announced he's not coming.
No.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting because I don't think Ramey's going to take it again, personally. But
wow, who do you think could take him out?
I think Hottie might take it this year.
Wow.
Yeah, if he stays the same condition that he's been looking, I think so.
Incredible condition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, incredible condition.
What about Brandon Curry?
That's possible.
It's possible. Yeah.
It's possible. But I think he might be like Dexter. I think he might be just be a one-hit wonder.
That may be. Yeah.
Yeah.
That may be.
So,
He's got an incredible classic, not classic, but like he's got a tiny waist.
Yeah.
He's got
Wide shoulders, a nice V tape.
lines. Yeah, I mean, I really think he's closer to what I think of bodybuilding than Hadi or Rami, but everybody's got their own opinions, you know. You got me on the day too.
Yeah.
and you got Lee's boy, Hunter.
Yeah.
Right.
And you got this Nick Walker. Nick Walker hasn't been compared to any of these guys yet.
Yeah, he's a monster.
He's a monster. Oh, he's a monster.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed something, and this is maybe me. I'm looking at photos from some of the contest results, and you see 6 guys on stage, and they all go into a front double bicep, and they all look the same to me. I know that sounds funny saying that from a guy in my position, but they all look the same. No real deep separation, incredible amounts of mass, vascular, and
no lines.
No lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all look kind of like, I want to use the word mutants, but they
Freaks.
look gargoyle-ish.
They're freaks.
Freaks, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've got a point there, you know, like back in the 80s and 90s, I could look at a silhouette of a bodybuilder and tell you exactly who it was.
Who it was. You knew who it was.
Yeah. Just by the shape of the calves or the shape, the sweep or the bicep peak, you could tell exactly who that was without even seeing the face.
No, you can't do that now.
You can't do that now, can you? I never even thought of that.
So that's saying a whole lot. Just saying that, Ian. That's saying
True,
a whole
isn't it?
lot.
It's true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I could recognize your physique in a silhouette very easily.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's because I used to look at the magazines all the time, so it's kind of etched in your brain.
That may, yeah.
Maybe that's it. But you know, I could definitely recognize. I mean, I would do it often. I'd like put my hand over the face and I'd know exactly who it was.
Oh, absolutely. I could do the same thing. Yeah.
But it's interesting, very interesting.
It is.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Phil. It really has.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Maybe we could do this again.
I'd love to.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, we're always looking to have people come back on and, you know, just talk like this, whatever, you know.
It was a joy.
Yeah, I love hearing y'all's stories, man. That's like,
yeah,
it's awesome.
I tell those stories to these younger guys, and they don't know who Mike Mincer is.
No.
They don't know who Ray Mincer was. They don't know. They don't know anybody.
No, and since I've started this podcast, I've had so many people reach out to me, and guys like you and all these other people that these 80s and 90s bodybuilders that I've been having on telling their stories. They're like, man, this guy's amazing. We had no idea. You know, nobody probably knew that you had at one time beat Lee Haney and Lee Labrada.
Oh, probably not.
You know, so it's like, you know, I'm sure people are going to be like, holy crap, I had no idea who this guy was.
You know what's crazy though? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong again, but you know, like when you were coming up, Phil, humility was kind of a strength, right?
Yes.
You didn't talk about yourself. Other people talked about you.
Hey, that's the best.
Yeah.
You don't have to brag. Let them brag for you.
Exactly.
Well, you have social media to do that now.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. People are all bragging nowadays, and back then, I mean, I was brought up in my father and the male figures around me. It was, if you were humble, you were strong.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what that's what you saw, so that's what you learned, and that's what you emulated.
Absolutely.
But it's, you know, it's like you say. I mean, Phil never told you. I mean, most people, if they'd have beaten Lee Haney, an 8-time Mr. Olympia, that'd have been the first thing out of the mouth, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't with you. You know, that's admirable, man.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
It's true though. It's true. I mean, and you're being humble now about it, but it's true. I mean, I mean, who can say they beat Lee Haney and Lee Labrada?
Yeah. Well, not too many.
No.
Yeah.
Not too many at all.
Well, hey, that's an amazing story. Thank you for telling us.
Oh no, yeah. It's a pleasure.
All right. You got anything else?
No, I think that's
No,
good.
good. Yeah, that was good.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you guys. Thanks, Ian.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good evening.
Thinking of me. You too, guys. Take care, guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye.